Did you learn anything? This was the phrase we heard most often growing up. It was Dad's favorite. If you broke a tool, did you learn anything? Smash your thumb with a hammer. Did you learn anything? You'd bang up the car and Mom would say, "Are you okay?" And Dad would say, "Did you learn anything?" 10 kids is a lot of kids, and it doesn't feel like it when you're one of the kids. But looking back, I'm amazed at my mother's many talents. She worked as hard as any of us outside and always managed to feed us inside. One of Mom's favorite sayings was, "This ain't Alice's restaurant." And it wasn't, it was Mom's restaurant. Always enough, always hot, always good, as long as you like the menu. Breakfast was cream of wheat, puffed wheat that came in great big pillowcase-sized bags, boxes of cornflakes or bowls of oatmeal, and bottle after bottle of Beehive corn syrup. And I'm all for buying local and supporting farmers, but back then I often wished we had a Cheese Whiz orchard or a couple acres of Fruit Loops out back. We did mix things up sometimes. You get all exotic and put wheat puffs and cornflakes in the same bowl, and we did. And for lunch, thousands of bagged lunches, roast beef sandwich, 2 cookies, and a milk bag filled with popcorn. Bologna ground with dill pickles and mayonnaise, 2 cookies and a bag of popcorn. Fridays were special, egg salad or salmon, 2 cookies and a bag of popcorn, and shit on a shingle for supper. And you had to get a week out of the paper sack and the milk bag. Sunday was often roast chicken, which leads to another favorite. Those who eat the fastest get the mostest. But there was always enough, and enough had to mean extra enough, because there was always extra people around too. Wilsey, Hank, Slobber, Bentley, or maybe Mike Van Ray, Janet, Barb, Marianne, or one of my own friends, Mike or Jeff, cousin Martin, Liette, Mandy, some kid one of us brought home from Core, many others, always more, and Mom still fed everyone. Another of her sayings, "A potato for the pot," meant there was going to be enough, or well, at least enough potatoes, and you can water down the gravy, but you only got so much stuffing into a chicken, no matter how hard you tried. So you had to extra share the stuffing. And another one of Dad's favorites, "You don't have to like it." It applied to the menu, your chores, your schoolwork, and even your brother. And he would say it with a look on his face like he could not grasp how you could not grasp the absolute obvious, as in you do not have to like him, he's your brother. Speaking of brothers, George, or the Judge, was the oldest, though not by much. George, David, Dennis, and Susan, and Tim were all born between 1963 and 1966. But George was the oldest. He had to do everything first. First steps, first words, first day of school, car driving, and college. He was maybe not the best walker, talker, or studier, but George could drive the hell out of anything. I remember George's first car. Not much about the actual car, but I'm clear on the dust boiling up through the floor and his 8-track player. He had 3 tapes, Bat Outta Hell, The Fine Art of Surfacing by the Boomtown Rats, and Highway to Hell by AC/DC. These were the first cassettes I bought for myself when I started driving, and later I bought them on CD, and then I got the MP3, and it's still George I think of when I play them. Of course, George had to go and die first too, but not before he met and married Joanne in 1987, was blessed with 6 children and a few grandchildren he got to love and know before he had to go and blaze another trail for us to follow. I can tell you it took a lot to get George riled up, but smashing his snowmobile worked right away. Lips and brains was either David or Dennis. Not both at the same time, though. If one was brains, the other was lips. As twins, it seemed they shared one set of each, and neither one could think and speak at the same time. So the first one to talk was lips, and it was presumed the other one was busy thinking. So he was probably brains. David and Dennis are not identical twins. David was born with an extra thumb. He was. The doctors cut it off when he was 2, and it started a nasty habit with him. George did not do everything first. Dennis's wife, Dina, was married first, just not to Dennis. Yeah, and David and Tracy have been married 37 years, and Kevin is 38. Early on, Susan, or just plain Susie, was one of the boys, and often the leader of the pack. An early story of Susan chasing her brothers around with a poopy diaper would prove to be prescient. She spent the last 37 years dealing with Ron's shit. I have a few memories of Susan, but I do remember her cooking. Good or bad, I won't say, but yes, she does cook. She and Pauline had a fort behind the barn where they made coffee. They made out of seed pods, tea from walnut skins, sandwiches using corn silk and milkweed pods, and Lord only knows what else they fed me. Like George, Susan can drive. And like her cooking, just because you can do a thing does not mean you should do the thing. Yeah. Tim was never called Brains. Yeah. Tim was Timmy, or Timothy Rat, or Herman, or where the hell is Timmy? I was told this story about him, but I don't actually believe it. When Tim was in kindergarten, his teacher wanted to have him evaluated as he was exceptionally quiet, and they were concerned about his mental health, as all his art was in browns and blacks. When they asked him about it, he said it was because all the other kids got the good colors first. Again, I call bullshit. Timmy is many things, but he is not quiet, withdrawn, introverted, shy, or exceptional. Tim and Jackie have been married 32 years with the best soft serve ice cream in Huron County. 1969 was a sad year for Mom and Dad. Simon joined our family for only a few short days. As hard as it was, Mom took comfort telling us that we had an extra guardian angel while we were learning how to drive. Poopy Pauline, features large in all of my memories. Not because she was exceptionally anything either. She was just always there. She's in every photo I'm in. She's got the great big glasses and the curly hair. I have the big glasses and the straight hair. Totally different. Hay forts, snow forts, racing out the lane to catch the bus, racing back in the lane after school, eating grapes at Uncle Frank's, and crossing 30 acres of 6-foot field corn to spend a few minutes at the fence line eating wild raspberries with Marianne and Rob. In the late 80s, she introduced us to Mr. Canoe Head himself. Where's Mark? Mark Canton, married now for 34 years. Mark taught me how to smoke cigarettes. He also taught me that anybody, no matter how awkward or goofy looking you are, with persistence, can get the best looking girl in the room. And you don't even have to be from the same country. Having 4 older brothers is tough, but like all small, weaker creatures, if you're going to survive in the jungle, you need a good defense mechanism. Mine was the fish, a move meant to distract the predator and allow for an escape. When confronted, I would fall to the floor and jackknife back and forth like a fish. It sounds childish now, but I'm still alive. My nickname was Buzzard. I like to think it was because I ate all the leftovers, but it had more to do with my nose. It took me 20 years to grow into it. And I did eat all the leftovers. Girls marry their fathers, and luckily I found a girl whose father has the distinguished nose of a Greek god. And he loves leftovers. 29 years later, here we are. If 4 is tough, where's Brian? If 4 is tough, 5 is tougher. Bernard or Bernsey or Buck developed the awesome defense mechanism that was and is to disappear. He's always been quiet, but during a stressful event, Brian, the chameleon, can blend into any environment and disappear. His default skin tone is the same shade as the paneling that covered every interior wall of our house. Paneling that was, by the way, quietly acquired from the Taylor Trailer Company in Hensel where Dad worked. Sometimes on Saturday, we went there and sorted bottle caps from the pop machine looking for a winner. Anyway, I don't know how Dad got the paneling in his lunch pail, but he also brought home wooden cutoffs for kindling. These provided much entertainment for Brian and I as we spent hours constructing marble machines. Yeah. A good way to trigger Brian is to play One Way or Another by Blondie. Yeah, don't get him going. Like all top predators in the jungle, Mrs. Brian Regier, Carol Ann, has excellent vision, spotted Brian at a local watering hole, cut him out of the pack, leaving Martin alone at the bar. That's 20 years ago. Where's Retta? Yeah. Growing up, Retta or Retta Bones or just plain Bones was my most fierce competitor. Brian, Retta, and I were close enough in age that we shared a bathtub for a little while. Brian was terrified of the drain. Though he confided in me, he probably would not get sucked down. So Retta and I fought for the deep end of the tub. And then we fought over who got out last. And then we fought over everything else. We fought over the front seat, the back seat. We fought over the couch or the floor, or who got the good cup. But picking a fight with Retta was like picking a fight with Bugs Bunny. Didn't matter if you were Foghorn Leghorn or Marvin the Martian or Daffy Duck or that dog that was always tied to his house. You could fight all you wanted, but eventually you were the one running around looking stupid, yarking at the end of your rope like a lunatic. Retta in her prime could take a wrong turn at Albuquerque and still kick your ass. 18 years ago, she hung up her gloves and married Elmer Fudd. You figure it out. Eileen was born in 1980. Mom and Dad wanted kids in 3 different decades. So there's a solid win. I was almost 10 when Lean or Lena Bean or Bean or eventually Wheezy was born. The bloody war raged on between Retta and I, so she immediately claimed her as an ally. But Wheezy was above all that. She was Switzerland. By default, she should have been the princess, doted on by her admiring family. But there was no time for doting. It was the 80s. We had the Dukes of Hazzard on Thursday night, and Mom had 5 teenage drivers on Friday and Saturday. Simon and St. Christopher were getting time and a half with double time after 2 a.m. Town council elected to not pave the Babylon, putting it off for 10 years until they felt it had a better chance of sticking to the planet. Dad bought a brand new F-150 and became a grandpa in the same year. And Eileen quietly drifted along into the 90s, moving from cigarettes on the back roof to emptying the liquor cabinet a quarter of an inch at a time. Like Halley's Comet, she would travel away from here but always come back. Her first orbit took her to Cleveland's house, then Banff, Alberta, and then Sydney, Australia, which is as far as you can go before you have to come back. On one of her passes, she picked up a satellite of her own, Ian. Again, girls marry their fathers, and Ian, like Dad, loves Wizard, and Eileen. And like Dad, he loves Wizard more. Married 16 years and a funny accent later, Ian would gleefully burn a wizard if it meant Dad would not win, even at his own peril. Friday night was yours, but the harder you played, the more you paid. Saturday belonged to Dad, and there was nothing he liked more than green faces and a full day of chores to attend to. Saturday night was also yours, but Sunday was 9 o'clock mass, followed by brunch. Mom cooking bacon and eggs, and Dad banging away at the toaster and the coffee maker, trying to speed them up. Sunday afternoons were spent keeping an eye out for Father Mooney's airplane when we were picking rocks or pulling weeds. Didn't want to see us working on the Lord's Day, right, Dad? Picking rocks is a generic term. We picked bricks. Oh, we picked rocks too, lots of rocks. But the field in the lee of the pond grew a healthy crop of bricks. The last time I visited George in the hospital, he told me he had an awesome dream the night before. In his dream, he was driving his tractor scuffling, and he had stopped the tractor to pick up a stone he had seen. He told me the dream was so vivid he had gotten out of bed and only realized it was a dream when his feet hit the linoleum. I don't miss picking stones as much as George did, but I do miss it, and I miss him too. Dad could show anybody a good time. We'd be driving somewhere and he'd say, "Hey, look, those guys over there are having a good time." And Dad was a yeller. He still is a yeller, but he was a yeller then too. Not much for swearing though. He would wind himself into an inarticulate frenzy, so he never really did teach us how to swear. No, we had John Finley for that. Spring meant to visit. He was. Spring meant to visit from John for trimming horns, nutting calves, and creative expletives. John was an auctioneer, and he taught my mother how to pray. I'm sure she holds the record for the shortest rosary. 10 kids in 5 decades, that makes for a lot of fun too. There was no system, so kneeling around the living room on the couches and chairs, using fingers as rosaries, either no one would start a decade, or 2 would start at the same time, or 3, or none again, or worse, Brian would start one. Oh, Brian holds no speed records. And then you might get 9 Hail Marys or 11, or sometimes you got 10. I know. It drove Dad nuts. It did. Oh, excuse me. And you can't think about Lot 18, Concession 9, and not think about walnuts. Easily the worst tree in the world. The black walnut is the last tree to get a leaf and the first tree to lose them. They drop sap and nuts and those weird little branchy things on your car. The outer shell is greasy and smelly, and the nut shell itself is impossibly hard, and the inner fruit is very small. To top it off, they don't actually taste very good. So we ate them by the bushel. Yeah. We cracked them with rocks on the well top and spent many hours trying to extract the meat whole, which is impossible. We threw them at the cows, we threw them at the squirrels, and we threw them at the birds, and we threw them at each other. We turned our hands that funky yellowy brown. We kicked them out the laneway, and we cursed when we stepped on them whole, and we cried when we stepped on them in pieces. Lots of walnuts might be a harbinger of a hard winter, but lots of walnuts could also mean a great summer coming, or maybe it was a great summer that just passed, or maybe fewer walnuts was bad, or it was the other way around. Mom was all over the place with that one. The great tree in the front yard had a rope swing with a rut in the middle 8 inches deep. The nuts make a strange popping sound when you drive over them, kind of like driving over frogs. And the only thing that grows under a walnut tree is a tiger lily. It's the worst tree in the world, but everybody should have at least one. Everyone should also have a pond. Yeah, ours was created 100 years ago when clay was taken from the ground to make yellow bricks. After the bricks were hard, they scattered them all over the freaking farm, so we had to pick them back up. We spent hours at the pond, finding snails, clams, crayfish, bird watching and looking for turtles, and feeding the black flies and the mosquitoes and the bloodsuckers. One year we caught a turtle and wrote the year on his back in nail polish. I guess he was teased so much about the nail polish he left home because we never saw that turtle again. We made rafts all summer and we skated all winter. There was a small indentation beside the pond that would be filled with moss in the spring. Mom called it a fairy garden. To Mom's amazement, and though we operated under constant threat, nobody ever drowned. Soakers and wet gloves were the worst, yeah, and fun in the sun was the best. Unlike every other mom we knew, ours was raised in Detroit. She taught us cat's cradle and jumping rope and hula hoop and slap hands, and of course all the associated rhymes. We knew what Miss Mary Mac wore and what killed the snakes on the land of Mars the ladies smoked cigars. We knew what happened to the kid that ate up all the soap and the 5 little monkeys that jumped on the bed. We learned how to get all in together girls and apples, peaches, pears, and plums. And we knew what color your mom's blood was when I punched your mother right in the nose. And of course, what year Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Later, Aunt Karen would teach us all the naughty versions Mom had neglected. Other may also ate us at a big pianle. Yeah, it's not as valuable as French would have been, Mom. Especially when we had that weird Quebec exchange student creeping around. But a unique skill for sure. Another superpower of my mother's was the ability to take a cigarette out of your pack and replace the tin foil so well, you figured they made that pack of smokes on Friday and they were in a hurry. And she was the best. Yeah. Yeah, and that pack was just 1 cigarette short. It was very strange. Yeah. But she always sent us off with a heaping serving of light heart and positive outlook with a side of confidence. It was either walk softly and carry a big stick, or if it seemed more appropriate, you might get have a funny day and be strong. And before you left, you had to tell Mom you'd see her later. Couldn't say goodbye, because goodbyes are forever. So it was always, see you later. Oh. And like Mom's kitchen, there's always more to remember. Remember, don't fall through the floor at the little white house at the end of the lane. Don't fall through the floor at Uncle Frank's barn. And making maple syrup at Uncle Edwin's. And skipping stones and inner tubes and finding Susan's glasses at Dezuda's Beach. Remember, red sky at night is a sailor's delight, and rain before 7 will quit by 11. And just because your ass is cracked doesn't mean your legs are broken. And that's enough to make a cat puke. Remember the dark and stormy night and the spunky little monkey named Scalawag and Punkarella and Susan dropped the olives and we almost saw a stripper at Mark's bachelor party. Oh, you forgot the olives? Yeah. Remember riding the drill, emptying the harrows, and filling the trough at Frank's. Remember, it didn't matter what you were looking for. It was either against the wall in the big shed or it's on the piano bench. And it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And remember Hook's Party Sound and Dancing in the Trough. And Brian will sell you this year a cultivator for $1.69. Remember Black Eyes and Stitches and Broken Bones and Sunburns. And George's gets Poison Ivy and David's got Mono and we all do the Green Apple two-step. Yeah, remember Calamine Lotion in the green can and Witch Water and calling Ralph on the big porcelain phone. Remember Indian rope burns, bloody knuckles, knuckle punches, and how can I miss you if you don't go away? Remember walking on the rail fence, the electric fence, great at parties, and the cows are out. Remember late for church and dad's in the car, and the hay only comes off on the hottest day of the year, and remember pink lemonade. And remember buzz cuts, sharing bedrooms, sharing beds, and sharing 3 inches of bath water. Remember leaping out of the straw shed, more broken bones, snow on the bed, and I can't see Zurich. Remember eating in silence so Dad could hear the farm report on AM 980. Goofy Greats comes on at 7:55 and the bus comes at 8. The news is on at 6 and it's on again at 10, but Dad had to have both. It was in case somebody like the Prime Minister called and asked him what he would do about so-and-so. Remember playing 500 baseball in the cow pasture, and there's cops in the laneway, and the school called. Remember burnt pies for priests. Fried yellow beans, root beer floats. Remember popcorn in bowls, popcorn in balls, and popcorn on strings on the Christmas tree. Remember ant pie and cinnamon buns and rhubarb with brown sugar. June beetles on the screen door, June beetles in the spaghetti, and raisins under the bushes. Remember sweet corn and cucumbers, Cracker Jacks, loft swings, more broken bones, and you left the water on in the barn and now it's running out the lane. Remember, no leftovers means no rain, and pass the grasshopper juice before it falls on the floor, and the bus is at the bottom of the hill. Remember, it's hot in here, open the upstairs door, close the fridge, turn off the lights, you won't melt, and bring in an armload of wood. Huh? Remember Blackie and Toby and Ralph and Noopers and Moses and I'm a Dog, and who could forget Beauregard and Sweeney? Remember George had to shoot poor old Toby when he got caught in the swather, and then he had to shoot him twice. Yeah. Remember all the exotic animals in the front yard, falcons and skylarks and Malibus and cutlasses and Mustangs. Remember order your partner go alone, turn down a bower, lose for an hour, Pinocchio's worth 32. Remember mushroom hunting on Mother's Day, the buzzsaw on the barn hill, and go wash your feet in the sink. Remember oranges in your stocking and a skein of grapes, tying multiple small Christmas trees together to make one decent Christmas tree, and then not putting lights on the back of the tree to save hydro. And that Santa always brings cream-filled chocolates and a puzzle. Remember the gold finger, calves on the porch, raccoons in a frying pan, and we're smuggling shoes over the border. Remember Dad loses his ring, and then Dad finds his ring, and then Dad loses his ring, and now Dad's losing his mind because the cops are back, the school called again, and where the hell is Timmy? Remember going to 5 o'clock Mass in Lucan? That was good. Yeah. Stations of the Cross, prayers to St. Anthony, prayers to St. Christopher, prayers to St. Jude, and your guardian angel. And don't forget to say your morning offering. Right, Mom? Remember Happy Bum and the Rosenblums, and Rosenblum's stupid dog that tried to take your leg off when you went to get the mail? And putting a pillow in your overalls so you can trick or treat as Elam Shantz? Remember Bruce Shaw, Terry O'Rourke, and Mrs. Young? Remember the Bishkis, the Binkowskis, and the Fortises? Remember Officers Wilcox, Finch, Christmas, and Brennan? Remember Decker's Hill, Boot Hill, the Shack, Lover's Lane, the Swamp Lady, and there is no bottom in a gravel pit. Did you know that? There isn't. Remember eating fuzzies off the blankets, eating pictures of food from the flyers, and eating Susan's stupid mud pies? Yeah. Remember there's no knob on the bathroom door, and if it's yellow, leave it mellow, and the Christmas wish book, and the Sears catalog. Yeah. Remember 6, 8, 10, 13, 18, and 42, though 13 and 42 were the same, as were 8 and 10, and climbing the antenna to try and get City TV on 31, or CHCH out of Hamilton on 11 on a real good day. And if you put your foot on the register when you were changing the channels, you might also have to change your underwear. Also fun at parties. Remember spooky stories on the AM dial after dark and rolling down the barn hill in a tractor tire and learning to bike on the barn hill and that mom hates coconut. Remember the Babylon Mall and the switch in the root cellar also turns off the freezer and don't get locked in. Remember homemade stilts, high jumping, and Achilles heels. Remember how many hillbilly jokes on the cans of Mountain Dew and you touched it last. If the wind changes, you're going to look like that forever. Remember catching Brand's chickens, picking Miller's rocks, and a collect call from Rosemary meant you needed a ride home from Exeter. Remember the telephone tree party lines and talking on the telephone in the stairwell. Remember buckets of KFC, the barbershop chair, and did you jump off the back porch to get those jeans on, Susan? Yep. And don't park so close to the well. That's not. So, where was I? None of us claim to have the perfect marriage. 10 kids, spouses, 342 years of marital experience. Not that many of bliss, but 342 of married. All right. So, did we learn anything? Did we learn anything? Back to that. Family first. Say your prayers. Work hard. Play hard. Share. Love your mom. Walk softly. Carry a big stick. And it's never goodbye. It's I'll see you later. So cheers to 60 years.
Here, here.
Oh, that's funny.